everybody. Got it. Okay. So, and if this thing happens again, then that means there's something going on that I don't understand. Okay. So I want to give the floor to Mr. Pius. He's going to be taking us on a conversation that is very, very important to start your journey or to also get you inspired to even understand the narrative of what is happening in the environment, climate change in Nigeria, opportunities, challenges, and way forward for Nigerian youth. I'm sure you'll be able to enjoy this. And please try as much as possible, write down, get your questions ready. We will not be able to take a lot of questions, but I assure you that we will try as much as possible to take the ones that we can. So please let us get ourselves engaged. I'm going to share the new YouTube link before Mr. Pius come on board so that you can share it with everybody that is going to be joining this call. Yeah. So Mr. Pius, you have the floor, sir.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Climate. Of course, it's always a privilege for such a platform and also for an opportunity for us to come on board and share ideas. But I'll start quickly with a brief intro. I'm Pius Oko, and I work with Lift Humanity Foundation, which I'm also a co-founder. And we aspire as an organization to provide a platform for climate crisis advocacy, while also championing green transition and sustainable development. Of course, Mr. Climate has been another brother in the system, and it's also, thank you also for this privileged opportunity. I will start with the video. One thing I learned from that video, the short clip just shared, was what we have to discuss today, which action starts with you and I. It's not just waiting for the system or the process, but me and you can also contribute our quota. We also need research and data. Advocacy is also key, and in crowning all, partnership. Permit me to share, I think I'm disabled.
Okay, let me do that.
Yes, please, if you can share my slide.
Let me give
yes,
you.
Thank you. I think you can control it from the end, it's cool. So when it comes to climate change, the first thought that comes to my mind, and the question I always ask when we are meeting a platform like this, is that it's a local thought though, but I feel like what comes into your mind when we talk about climate change is, what is your best season? And what is your best season? When you look at this too, then you begin to wonder and also try to fathom the aspect of climate change within. And for me, my best season is the rainy season. And I always say it with a kind of enthusiasm, because I think those are the best time I have mangoes in both within my community and my environment to take, because those are like one of my best fruits on planet Earth. So it is those best time I have this fruit. So I feel more privileged when it's rainy season. But of course, like we're going to discuss, it comes with its own consequences with the impact of climate change, which we've already seen even from the short clips earlier shared. Okay, I think the slide is coming up. Thank you, Lumide. Yes, so I think you just move. We're already past this stage. Slide 4, it's cool. Yeah. So it's just 101. Already the context has been discussed, and I know I have limited time, so you permit me to move a little faster. But at the same time, there's an open platform for questions within the comment section, like earlier reiterated by the host, and also a question or Q&A time where we can also through some of these discussions as well. So next, so on the 101, what really is climate change? I know it's a familiar story. It's what we know. Can you help us play that? So it's a radiation always form as a light wave that passes through the atmosphere. Now, please, you can play that. No, you can play that particular slide is a little play. You can touch on, yes, this slide 5. Yes, just play down. Yes. So when this light wave hits the earth, some energy, of course, are being retained and some form or return back. So some of these are being trapped. But as a result of the greenhouse gases, which is the CO2 being concentrated more, it prevents those gases that are supposed to escape that normally warms the earth, because the earth needs to be warm, which is a normal natural system. But because we are now forming a kind of an obstacle to block that which are supposed to be trapped normally, it becomes abnormal. And so there's an increase in temperature. And that is what really hits the system and makes the earth more vulnerable to increase in temperature and then climate change. Next slide. So now we've already talked about this, but at the same time, what are those things that we're doing? Because already scientific evidence has shown that we are the major causes, or human beings are the ones, even from the clip we just watched, we're the ones causing this to a large extent. And so from the fossil fuel that we consume, which we use for energy sources, from the extraction to also the consumption pattern, we are emitting gases. Aside that, these gases are now being trapped in the atmosphere, and so makes the planet warmer than before. So majority of the issues of climate change is human cause. Next slide. And this is just the logic system. It means that human activities, such as the burning of the coal and oil for energy, incorporate some amount of these greenhouse gases. And then when they are being trapped, it contributes to a major extent to issues of climate change. And we already know that the effects, just like the flooding that was caused in the video that we just watched, where some plastics have been trapped, and we have ourselves within that context. So that is what is telling us that climate change, of course, intensify the system, especially the weather events. And this causes a lot of issues like the rise in temperature or the temperature irregularities, and also the rise in sea level, which is resulted into flooding and drought across the country. Next slide. But at the same time, we still need to differentiate why of the climate change and weather. I know these are also familiar topics and discussions, but it's also just to reiterate and remind us of something, that climate change on its own aspect is weather condition for a very long period of time in a certain region or in a particular location. But weather, that's climate change, it's weather, but on an entire different level, being that weather within a long period of time. But weather itself is just an atmosphere change. So if it's about to rain in your place now, or wherever you are, it means that that is weather condition. Or there's a change in heat waves over 24 hours, for example, that is weather condition. And so those are the two differences. So one, it's on a long stay, and then the other one is just for a short while. And that's why we're trying to prevent that of the long stay, which is the climate change. Now, because of time, let's move. What are the challenges? And that is where we will now talk particularly to us, human. And the challenges to us, next slide, is that one, we now have a surge in terms of emergency in medical conditions. On the video, you also notice that even one of the actors was saying that he sprinkled or made to avoid mosquitoes. He was sitting outside, and that is the frustration that climate change can cost us, in the sense that Now, because of the heat rise or the irregularities within the temperature, it leads to breeding of most of our vector causing insects or this that causes diseases like the Zika virus, the Anopheles or the mosquitoes that causes malaria. So it has already shown, and this is also scientifically backed, that increase in temperature has led to increase in the reproduction or in the breeding system within those elements or those organisms that causes us havoc in terms of the diseases that we face commonly within Nigeria. We know the prevalence of malaria in Nigeria. Next slide. The other aspect is now the increase in temperature is also, and also the overflow of our increase in sea level rise is also reducing our land and both aquatic species. So scientifically, it's been predicted that within this century alone, we will be having 50% shortfall in terms of our land-based species. Already we have amphibians losing that. We have our birds also. And these are environmental indicators. Like I always say, if there's going to be an earthquake within your locality today, in the next 3 months, you won't see any bird flying over your roof. Because why? These systems are already in check, which are natural balance. You won't see even the lizard that we commonly see around the environment. If it's going to be an earthquake, there won't be a lizard in the next 2 to 3 months within that locality. Why? This system, natural system, has been in place, and they dictate because of the vibration that they feel, even the birds that perch on the trees or that nest within the trees, they already feel this vibration and they take off within that region. They already feel the heat wave, but humans, sometimes we neglect some of these signs and signals. And so it's very important that we also allow our biodiversity to be in coexistence with us because they help us to do check and balances within the system. Next slide. So in the other aspect, of course, the exposure to the carbon and also the heat stress is also leading to decrease in the nutrient in terms of the content or quantity of what we produce. And we know Nigeria being an agriculture base in terms of its sustainability and sustenance. Now we're losing as a result of maybe flooding, destroying our products or our farmlands, like what we experienced last year, where we had over 600 plus people dying, aside other thousands and millions of hectares of land being destroyed. This is already leading to food insecurity within the system. So the flooding and the drought is a big issue, which already climate change is causing if we continue with our attitude and the way we plan. Next slide. Issues of migration, I don't want to speak much on that, but we know the conflict already within the communities that is causing as a result of migration, either for nomadic farmers or for even farmers going to their farms and then being cut short as a result of conflict because they want to find a more fertile land for farming. And why? Because we've also destroyed the system. And those are the issues that are causing climate change within our space. Next slide. On this next slide, I will appeal that you also click on the play for us to see the cost of carbon. This is just telling us that if we continue what we're doing, already we are having these experiences already, political instability, floods and mudslides everywhere, wildfires, we have reports of them. We have droughts in the far north, we're already experiencing this. And also the shrinking Lake Chad, we can also have evidences to show for this. We have acidification of the ocean, infrastructural loss, climate refugees as a result of migration, sea level rise, famine, and all of these infectious diseases, which are things that are particular to us. So it is the #1 threat to global economy, to our economic system, and to our sustainability. Next slide. And so to wrap up with these challenges, I will say that already those challenges highlighted, one key thing is that we are now losing also in data, because that is one key issue that we've not taken too serious as a community, as a people, even as young persons. Sometimes we neglect issues of data to even push with policymakers the lack of political, this now is politically now to the policymakers, a lack of policy framework. So there's no clear roadmap. For example, we want to transition into renewable energy, which of course is part of the discussion for today. Are there framework that gives that clear evidence of our transition plans? We are mixing this in terms of where we want to be and how we are planning to be. It's a big issue. So that there'll be a just and equity in the system of just transition or in the system that we want. So our policy framework needs to be harmonized to have that framework that is lacking currently. Of course, weak regulations is also another big issue. Most of our policies, we know as Nigerians, we are best in terms of human resource. We have the best brains in the world. As young people, as we are amazing. If we throw up and say, what are some of the ideas for climate actions? A lot of amazing ideas will come up. But there are weak regulations because people are even scared to invest. And those are the issues, especially that drives us sustainably. We also need issues of synergy. Most of times we see this as a competition, even within the MDAs and government parastatals. When a policy is for a particular MDA, they feel they own it, and then they don't feel to collaborate with relevant other NGOs or organizations or institutions that will help fast track, and even the private partners that will help fast track this growth and make sure that this works. So those are the issues. Then the low leveraging on government resources. Most times we depend solely on government resources for what we want to drive in terms of, for example, our NDCs or our different policies. We don't think out of it. It's a big issue. And so we need to make sure that we diverse our ways in terms of resource mobilization for this. Then, of course, these limited resources still stick to capacity. We need to broaden our capacity as young people to ensure that we are in time with what is the reality, because sometimes we also work with the past, but we need to work with reality in terms of technology, and which we are going to discuss. Then private sector participation is very low, particularly now, in terms of investment and working around issues of climate change, because some are still denying it, and some because of issues of profits. Next slide. Now, this is the most interesting part of it, which is how we can take advantages of some of these issues that we've raised. What are the way forward as young people, as youth in Nigeria? Next slide. Number one key is the aspect of I call it economic, or the economy of waste. Like we've already seen from the videos, from them being beaten by the issues of their attitude to waste, to now taking action to making sure that they galvanize and also improve their waste management, and coming up with innovative ideas. And that has transitioned them to winning grants, if you watch the video clearly or critically, and also transforming them into speaking in international and global space, influencing policies. Of course, I saw a picture of the team, the trial in the UN, at the UN. So it shows that definitely we could progress in this aspect. Currently, we have waste management issues in Nigeria. So the system is inadequate, a lot of pollution, environmental degradation. So young men, we need to start up how we could recycle, how we could also manage the aspect of either waste to energy projects, or waste to wealth, like my colleague whom will come later, I know we'll discuss on these issues. But that is where we need to look at it. Let's not see waste as trash, but as investment opportunities. I think the next slide, the over 2.1 billion tons of waste every year. And Nigeria is about 3% of the total population of the world. It means that out of that 2.2 billion, you can take that percentage of 3% out of it. You know the quantity of waste that Nigeria has as an investment for young people to leverage on, because of our ideas, because of our intellect, because of our amazing, will I say, science tech ideas that we have. Next slide. So we can move from the various aspects. We have technology to our advantage, which is, of course, where we are. So from issues of collections, people are making a lot of resources from there now. As young people, that is what we can do. We know Lagos, for example, with its huge population, a lot of waste are resulting from there. I also know some young persons are doing that, but it is not enough because it is all of us. It is not just one person or two persons. It is us that can achieve this. So from collection, from manufacturing, which we are going to see on the next slide, what is happening. But you can see technology, arts, fashion, in farming, we can use waste to farm. A lot of people are doing it already. I know some carrot plantations that are using plastics, waste from plastic to farm carrots. And it is doing amazingly well. Of course, we know for livestock, for example, even some of the feeds or the feeders, they are made from these plastics. It's things we can use. Energy, of course, a lot of amazing issues. People are using even plastic now to make bricks that we use for tile, for example, that we use in the house, designing homes. These are amazing issues. Furniture, for example, the next slide will give us that opportunity where waste are being transformed into even clothing materials. We know a lot of amazing young persons are in Nigeria that are already into this. We, of course, fashions at home where we can transform this into sitting tables, chairs, and things that we could use, and even fascinating designs that we can have in our homes as a result of waste. Clothing materials made from this. This also will promote tourism for us if we take it to the next level. Next slide. I'm trying to work with time, and so you pardon me. I know this will be made available. Renewable energy is one area that Nigeria currently is a hub for energy poverty. I'm sorry to say this or use that word, but it's just bank on the reality on ground. We know the percentage of people in Nigeria that lacks electricity or that lacks even energy to cook. When you go to rural communities and then you see their homes, they need to, of course, feed. And so they need to cook every day. So,
Mr. Pius. Mr. Pius, please unmute yourself. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Sorry about that. I didn't notice that. So, as I was saying, in rural homes where we have power source, people need power, and in those communities, most of our development, even in Nigeria, have been focused in urban development. We forget about rural development, and that is where these are the people that are the detriment or are the ones suffering these consequences of climate change in the whole, because they need to survive by cooking. They need to even warm their homes. But when there's no energy, what do? They resort to cutting down the natural source that we have that can even help us to mitigate the issues of climate change. So the future actually is in low carbon. And you find it amazing here where it has already shown that alone, the wind power can generate 40 times of the world electricity you need for consumption. This is scientific. It's not, so only wind alone, it's capable of generating the whole electricity that we need globally. So it's an opportunity that we must key in, and we should key in as young people. Next slide. Let me just go to the one that is also very interesting for us. That's just an hour of the sun that we receive on Earth every day is enough to power the whole world for a full year, just for 1 hour of sun. And Nigeria, for example, we know, because we're in the Sahara, we know the amount of sun. If you go out from your home now, you see the striking nature of how that radiation or the heat hits you up. So we have this potential that we need to key into. And that is what we're saying, that If 1 hour electricity, solar or power from the sun alone can power the whole world for a full year, it means we can even have reserve and use them for other things that are necessary. And these are places that we need to key in terms of like having the know-how, the technology of installation, manufacturing, and also producing systems that are solar compliance. Thank you. Next slide for time. And this is a good innovation somewhere where this pay-as-you-go solar system being provided in rural homes. And this is what we're saying, even our government should key into and make it more affordable, especially in developing countries like ours, where low initial costs can also be subvented in terms of having solar available. So this is a rural community where government is doing this, and it's things that we say we can do by also decentralizing our power system. Of course, with the new policy on ground, there's likelihood for that now for private sector to generate power and then sell. So these are the approaches that we're saying it is adoptable, is also something that we will work with and make it work in Nigeria. Next slide. And young people are key to this in terms of installation, in terms of making sure that this system works. Smart agriculture, we know from issues of best agricultural practices in terms of sustainable land use, where we can also do crop rotation, irrigation farming, soil conservation, homegrown gardens that we could do use providing the little we need in our homes, fisheries, poultry, beekeeping. These are all smart agricultural practices that young persons use even technology to advance. And this will impact, of course, even us as a people and also the economy. And this is what we're saying, that young persons are key and drivers to this. Next slide. And so we should take advantages of this. This is, of course, a picture of where drones are used now for irrigation purposes, instead of us going with the local ways of where we go to the stream before now to get water, maybe in the buckets to water our flowers. Or it could be at the comfort of your home. Design this maybe hourly, and technology controls the system. And these are places where we can build ourselves in terms of human capacity development for us to adapt and also have this knowledge and also make ourselves relevant in this field. Of course, in terms of poultry as well, we could also have a system where even feeds are being fed to fishes now hourly, when even the person is not there, because being programmed in a system where you can easily make this available for the fishes, and you grow your products, sell your products, make money or make income from them. These are innovations that we could do. Next slide. So on this, I will bank on the idea to say that what we need.
Hello, Mr. Pius.
Yes.
Sorry about this. I don't know why our Zoom is going to end in 8 minutes, and it is a what they call it. It is a premium Zoom. I don't know why it's doing this, but hello guys, please, if this Zoom goes off, please join again. I think I just need to check why it's going off on and off. Thank you so much. You can continue. Maybe by the time you finish, we start with another set. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think it's part of the technology hic or the issues that we've been having. I understand from that aspect, but let me rush over on this slide so that I think we'll be on a safe page. So the next slide. So on the next slide, these are just some ways forward. From that video, we already saw the need for advocacy. Awareness creation on issues of climate change is very, very paramount, and it is the young people that are the heart of this. Why awareness creation? Because they are still climate deniers. There are those that are just in for business or just profit, forgetting about or neglecting the people and the environment, which is not a practice for sustainable living. And so we have so much of our policies out there that we need to also practice and promote sustainably. How much are we doing this as a people? So the young people need to come into this space. We have a number of technology advantages to this. We are the champions in terms of technology, just like what we're having today in terms of Zoom. We need to keep that advocacy ongoing. We need to also promote issues of ecotourism. Of course, if you go to countries, broader countries like East Africa, you have people in the wildlife, in the forestry, as tour guides, making income, and also preserving what they have. And that is what people come to see. And they use it to make money. We are dependent on oil, for example, as a country. The Eastern Africa, and most of them, the Kenya, the Tanzania, are dependent on tourism as their highest capital or income or export to the world. So what are we doing? It means that we need to conserve and preserve. We have a lot of parks, even in Nigeria, which we've created more. Currently, we're having over 17 national parks. What can we do to make these innovations and sell us out there? We also need to explore innovative financing. And this is in collaboration and partnership, especially with private sector. Of course, you could hear also from the video, Lumide was telling us that the grant was a support, and that is it. You could also see in the video, it wasn't a one-person video, it was a collaboration. And that is where we also need to make sure that there's coalition, because that is where innovative financing model comes in. Even as government needs to also embrace the aspect of innovative financing as a model to enhance its climate change or climate action initiative. We need to improve on research and data and assessment. As young people, of course, data is very key, because when you speak even to funders or to seek funding and you speak with data, it brings you from an informed point, and it also gives you a direction of where and how to act or to take action. And when we say data, it means that you need to also consult with the local people and create that ownership system within the local places where you want to even make and take this maybe projects or interventions. Because when you don't create ownership, you also will lose it. Because at the same time, we have issues of now going back and forth in terms of how can we sustain this? But in ownership, then there's a sustainability angle to that. I think you return to the other slide, please. You can go back. So we need to also strengthen our capacity, both as individual, as an organization and institution, especially with new technologies and human capital. Today, we can tell our story using the social media, where Lumide has also promised to also share the link for us to learn more about some of these things. So these are advantages that we need to learn. Most of us, for example, need to design ways and make it more interactive so that people can easily engage. Those are the issues. Human capital means that we need to also invest in yourself so that you'll be able to have that capacity, that knowledge to drive actionable and solution-driven projects. Because sometimes when even you have the ideas and you don't collaborate with other people to make sure that this idea flies or have a more sustainable means, then we're also limiting ourselves in that way. So we need to do this. I think for also time, we have much time to engage and also to discuss on this. But for time, I will say thank you so much for this opportunity as I wait in the lobby for questions as we interact more with this idea. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Pius, for that wonderful presentation today. I'm very happy that we were able to, put this in a conversation whereby a lot of people have been able to understand why we need to take action. Another thing, again, is very also important that you've been able to show us what we need to start doing, like the issues that we are facing as a country, and a lot of things that is going on that we need to know. And this will also inform our action and our implementation across the value chain, which I think is very, very key and very, very important. Thank you so much. I don't know what is going on with this Zoom, and it is a premium Zoom, but I don't know why it's going off every 45 minutes. I don't know, maybe it's because of streaming live, or I don't know. But what I will do now is, before it goes off, if you have question, please, I just want to take 2 questions before we go. We have only 2 minutes before this Zoom link goes off. If you have question, please just raise up your hand. But if you don't have, you can also drop by the time we log in back, we join back with that same link. I will drop, you can drop your question, then we can move on. Then our speaker can respond to them as we continue in this conversation. So thank you very much, everybody. So if you have any question, please raise up your hand. I can't see anybody's hand for now, but what I will do is, thank you very much, Mr. Pius, for, giving us your time and for sharing with us from your, wealth of understanding. And I just want to tell you guys that you can reach Mr. Pius anytime. If you need any clarification, if you want to know more, you can reach out to him. As we continue, you'll also be listening to some people that will be, they're going to spend like 5 to 10 minutes each to share their journey, how they started, what they are doing now, and how you can also see their engagement to also encourage yourself moving forward. Thank you so much, everybody. I just want to pull up this Zoom. Then I'm going to create another YouTube link so that I think our YouTube link now is specific for each conversation we are having. Maybe I will sort this out later after this call. Thank you so much, everybody. Please rejoin this link back when it goes off so that we can, but I don't know what is going to be. I think we can move on before it goes off. The next thing we are going to be having is supposed to be Q&A. But since none of us have question now, I think, I can see somebody's hand. Okay, let me just give this person opportunity to speak. Please, you can unmute yourself and speak before the Zoom goes off. Less than a minute.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
So, thank you for the lecture.
Be fast about it so that the Zoom
The question I want to ask is, how can we start the pay-as-you-go solar stuff?
Okay. I think Mr. Pius is going to respond to that when we are back before we go to the next conversation. Thank you so much, Mr. Ajayi, for that question. Thank you. All right, so guys, it's going to go off now. We need to come back in less than a second. Thank you so much. I'm sure Loretta, Ibrahim, and Ali